Welcome to MMA Fancast. My name is Luke Pace, and welcome back to everybody who's already a subscriber to the channel. If you're not already a subscriber to the YouTube channel, go ahead and subscribe so you can see more great interviews, including the one coming at you right now. Always excited to have this professional MMA fighter on the show. He was undefeated as an amateur and was kind enough to come on this show a lot during his amateur career. And now he is 5-0, fresh off a debut win for the LFA for the LFA promotion. It is the one, the only Steel City, Lucas Seibert. Steel City, welcome back to the show.
What's up, brother? How you been?
I've been doing great. You had a big win for LFA. Let's talk about, before we get to your first round knockout win, there won't be a ton of fight to cover because you impressed so much, but talk about the opportunity to fight for LFA. I was following you on socials and saw, obviously, that was a great build-up. You were 4-0 as a pro. He was 4-0 as a pro. How did this fight come together? What was it like going into fighting Friday just a couple days ago?
You know, when I got the message for the fight, I was in Florida training at Kill Cliff. My manager, he sent me this guy. Me, Mike, and Will were like kind of iffy. We didn't know much about him. Obviously, he fought in Brazil. He only had the fights recorded. 4-0, no information, no video, and we were just like, screw it. I think I'm that good. I think, if I want to be in the UFC, I got to be able to beat anybody that's, around my record, around my, timing in this sport. And we were like, let's do it. It could have been a world beater. And we were ready to fight whoever. So that's how it went about. And then we signed it. And I went straight from Kill Cliff to Atlantic City to grapple the Lucas Bird, and then did that match. And then a month later, I was getting ready for the LFA fight a month after the Lucas Bird match.
Yeah, I mean, that was quite the busy couple months for you there. Were you originally down in Florida training for the grappling match? Is that kind of what happened? And then the fight came a month later. So you kind of got two out of more or less one training camp, right?
Um, no, we had the date, right?
Oh,
So,
okay.
it was like, I was the guy they were trying to match for the LFA
Oh,
Salamanca card.
oh,
We had the date. We were like, all right, um, we'll get ready for that date, and any opportunity we get, we'll take. And that Gus came, and we took that one and just started training for that fight right when I got back.
that makes a lot of sense. And at bantamweight, not surprisingly, you're starting to get well ranked. Of course, this is outside of the UFC. You've already mentioned the UFC. Tapology, most recently after your fight, has you at 11 out of almost 100 pro bantamweight. So almost top 10 pro bantamweight at 5-0. And of course, number two in all of Pennsylvania. What do you think it means for you to be on the undefeated? And I do know, because I've seen enough Dana White searching for a fight or Dana White Contender Series, either of those, that with the magic of Tapology, it's rare to see somebody who's undefeated as a pro and as an amateur. How much do you think that gives you a leg up as far as when you're looking to jump in to the UFC? The fact that you have the perfect record, amateur and pro so far.
I mean, it definitely helps, right? It's a good thing, but I'm challenging myself. My last two fights were not easy fights, especially on paper. The records were tough guys. Cam Jordan, he fights this weekend. I very much expect him to win his fight. That'll help me, right? Um, Gus was 4-0. I was 4-0, right? That makes sense. Prior to that, right, the record wasn't the best, but it was like about getting experience, getting wins under my belt, getting time in the cage. Now I'm ready to fight. I'm ready to stay active. I'm ready to fight some of the best people in the world, best people in the country. And the record is what it is. There's no lies to it, right? And every time I've stepped in the cage, I've won. Every time I've grappled, I've won. So we're just gonna continue to keep competing and keep doing what I'm doing.
Well, and we got focused on obviously the record and the improvement, I think, particularly over a, at least record wise, an equal opponent. Talk about the fight itself. It looks like it stopped under 3 minutes, 2:44 round one due to punches, but obviously I didn't get a chance to see it. I don't know what the setup was like. What do you remember from the first round in the almost 3 minutes, which 3 minutes is more than like a novice amateur round. So 3 minutes, you're starting to get into kind of the longer part of the first round. What do you remember from it? What stood out, and then what set up the finish?
I remember everything. I remember being backstage. Being around all the high level guys, Aljamain Sterling, Gilbert Melendez, all those people. And, I felt like I was like one of them. I felt comfortable. Um, I wasn't really necessarily nervous at all. Um, jump levels in terms of promotion. Um, and, I went out and I knew exactly that I was going to own the moment, right? I've been, telling everybody around me the bigger the lights are, the better I'll own the moment, um, the better you'll see me, and I did exactly what I thought I was going to do, and rolled in the cage, just got to feel it, touch the monster logo, and embraced everything. Fight starts. Uh, I was having a little bit of trouble getting to him. I was trying to use some movement. He was doing a good job of throwing leg kicks. I think he was a little nervous to engage. So a lot of it was like just pitter patter for the first minute. At about the 45-second mark, I shot. It was a reactive shot. It wasn't a shot I necessarily even knew I was shooting. He had thrown a couple leg kicks, and when I saw his hip kind of rotate again, I was already in on a double leg. I finished that double leg, got into like a closed guard, half guard position. Um, Eventually passed, landed maybe one or two shots. Got him against the cage. I kind of like allowed him to go against the cage. I personally like to work against the cage as the offensive guy on top and on bottom. But I got there, landed some hard strikes, landed an elbow with my right hand. Worked up. I had a cross wrist. I fed that cross wrist with my right hand, and that only gave Gus two options. He could give me his back, or he could turn into me. And as he turned into me, I landed my left elbow. So I got the rotational force of him turning towards it, and then me obviously rotating into the elbow. And then I just finished the fight from there. The ref was very vocal. Like he was saying, "Blue, you got to work up, you got to work up." As like before I landed that big elbow, and I felt him kind of have a sense of urgency because he thought the fight might get stopped. So I think I also took advantage of that, and yeah, man, finished the fight from there. That elbow, you can see it in the video on Twitter. His eyes rolled, and it was just kind of over from there.
Well, I appreciate you walking us through the ending. It's somewhat reminiscent of your first pro win with the jump knee, and then you knocked Jake Zach down, and then finished. I guess this technically could be grouped as ground and pound, but really your finishing skills come from wherever. You're a very dynamic striker, both on your feet and finding those. I've often thought, and I'll give John Bones Jones credit for this. I'm sure other people have too. I've often thought that tight elbows in tight spaces work really well. Ground and pound up against the cage, like lots of unique spots where typically people tend to only use them in open space, but obviously you got it done there on the ground. For you, what was the feeling when the ref pulled you off, it's usually in that area. It's usually Dan Mergliotta or Keith Peterson, typically down around that area. But whoever it was, what was the feeling when you got pulled off and you had, like you said, you made it was a jump in level as far as competition, those type things go. The lights, the focus, being in Atlantic City, the original fight capital. So what was the emotions like when the ref pulled you off?
So my fight, the fight actually was in Salamanca, New York. My
Oh,
grappling match was in Atlantic City.
uh,
Um,
thanks for clarifying
but
it. Apologize.
no, you're good. You're good. But it was really cool. I said that just because like that area was really cool. It was an
Mm.
Indian reservation,
Oh,
and big fight fans. Sorry, I think there's a raccoon killing something in my backyard. Um, big fight fans out there. So that was like it was cool. And as the ref pulled me off, I kind of backpedaled to the center of the cage just naturally, and just put my hands up and kind of just embrace the moment. And that's something that you only get a couple times in your life. Everything in this game, everything in life really, but everything in this game is very temporary. It comes and goes, right? So if you can take a second pause, um, sometimes it literally is a second, and just like feel it. Um, you know, take those moments, and I did, and you can see the emotion on my face in it, right? Just kind of like a big sigh and a smile, and it was an awesome moment having my friends and family there, some of the people that are closest to me, getting all the videos of my friends and family as they were watching and seeing their reactions, man. It's surreal at times, but it's also just like it's exactly how I drew it up 3 years ago when I started this journey when I moved to Pittsburgh. This is exactly where I knew I would be. There wasn't a doubt along the way. I did everything possible to sacrifice to get these goals. And this isn't the end. I have a lot more to accomplish. I have a lot more I'm going to accomplish. And um, man, I just hope everybody's tuned in and part of the journey because it's been fun so far. It's going to be a lot more fun as we get to the higher levels.
well, I remember our first interview before your amateur debut. We talked about how that you were just 2 months, something like that, removed from graduating from WVU. You know, you took a fight relatively impressively short after wrestling in college. And you mentioned that you had a sports psychology degree. Of course, I'm a practicing licensed mental health counselor. And from the beginning, the mental game of a performance athlete, a high performance athlete, as well as the talent and stout and all those other things, you're a very fun interview because you've got the swag and the charisma, and some of the fight aspects, the trash talk, some of those things, the back and forth, the intensity, but also the very cerebral approach of my favorite former UFC fighter, Hall of Famer, GSP, the very cerebral approach to what makes you better as a fighter. So you're the total package. Can't wait to see you continue. And I find myself very fortunate to have been, you were inviting people on the Steel City train, and I feel very fortunate to be on from the beginning. But I agree with you. I think, you're a very impressive fighter and all around who you are. I've gotten to see a lot of all of your fights for 247, and now as you continue to branch. Too soon with it only being 4 or 5 days after to worry about what you're doing next. But I want to throw out a hypothetical.
Yeah.
Hypothetically, given the fact that Dana White Contender Series is sometime usually in the summertime on Tuesday, the Tuesday night series, and he usually looks for people that have great records. Is that potentially a spitting distant thing, or is it just continue to see what your management team can come up with next?
So next, I'm already looking to fight August 15th in South Dakota and Sioux Falls. Um, my management's linked up pretty tight with LFA,
Nice.
and LFA is one of the biggest stages in the world. So I think, you just give me an opportunity to compete there as much as possible.
That's another
With that,
reservation. That's another reservation, right? Sioux
yeah,
Falls. That one I heard of. See, that one
yeah,
I heard of. Yeah.
yeah. It's it's beautiful out there. I'm really excited to, bring my girlfriend and my mom out there. Well, as I fight, and that's something I'm kind of excited about, is being able to travel while I fight. Um, and I'm gonna win that fight. That'll put me at 6-0. I'm gonna stay disciplined. I'm gonna continue to get better. Um, if Dana White wants to get a hold of me, he can call my manager, and we'll schedule something to make it happen. Whether that's contender series, whether that's maybe a short notice thing, within the next 9 months, I'll be in the UFC.
Oh, well, there you
Yeah.
go. You've always been great at game planning, and if people want to go watch back all the interviews I've done with you, from amateur all the way up, you've been very good at kind of a reasonably. You've laid out how you wanted things to go. I love the August 15th fight. Sorry, I didn't realize you'd already have a game plan 4 days after your fight. I should have just said, "Hey, what's next?" Most fighters are like, "Hey, man, I just won." Not Steel City, Lucas Seibert, though. You already got the next one. That'll be great. I can't wait to have you back on once we get, closer to the August 15th fight, once you have an opponent and a game plan, and all that figured out. But huge congratulations. Enjoy your big win going over there. Oh, I guess it's a bit of a fluff question, but I think it does matter given you mentioned travel. I got to watch you fight at your adopted hometown. You're from Ohio, wrestled W, but you've adopted Pittsburgh as your hometown. What was it like, the Atlantic City match and also the New York fight? What was it like going into a non-Pittsburgh market, as far as the crowd, as far as your focus, as far as some of those intangibles in the environment?
Um, it's cool. I hadn't done it really since I Miami debut, when I came to Pittsburgh for the first time. And it was awesome, man. And I think I gained a lot of fans, especially in Atlantic City after the Lucas match, that Philly area. I've trained out there. A lot of people know me out there. With LFA, I think just like, the way it is professionally, it's talking to having a sit down meeting before. I think they really like me, and I'm just being me. And I think, like, like-minded people um, attract each other, and I think I'm a fun fighter to watch, to get behind, and I just want to spread my wings, let the world see me. But Pittsburgh's always home. It's been home for the last 3 years. I've made my life here, and I think that's something that I'm really excited to see, and I already have seen, is getting back by the city, and having people buying my shirts and doing all this stuff, walking around. It's really special, man. And I'm super grateful for anybody that is supporting me, and like I said earlier, continue to support me as we get to the biggest stages in the world.
Well, that is perfectly well said. Thanks so much for sharing about that. Can't wait to see what you do in the August 15th fight, or whatever your next fight is for LFA. Thanks so much for coming on. You've been listening to Luke Basin from MMA Fancast. Time to really get behind Steel City. Lucas Seibert, a 5-0 as a pro. Fantastic. Thanks so much for coming on the show. Take care. Congrats again.
Thank you, sir.